Hello and welcome to B2B Revenue Leaders. I'm your host, Dustin Tizik. This podcast is brought to you by Testimonial Hero. The old customer content playbook is just really out of date, so case studies aren't read, reviews are always gamed. Testimonial Hero creates strategic video testimonials for you to use throughout your entire buyer's journey. It's time to update your playbook. Today, I'm joined by Chip House, who is the CMO at Insightly. We talk about how to stay scrappy and curious when you're in a space with giant competitors, why speed is so important, how to think through your go-to-market, and how you can leverage Nearbound to grow your business. Hey, Chip, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dustin, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So we're going to be talking about all things marketing here, really, but mostly around how to stay scrappy and curious in a space where you're going against, honestly, gargantuan competitors and how to stand out in your approach there. So let's start there, right? Like, for people who don't know, you're at Insightly in the CRM space. I'm sure people know a couple CRM players that are quite large. So how are you thinking about marketing to stand out in a space like that? I know it's a broad question, but let's start there.
No, I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, so we've had a CRM in market for about 11 years ourselves and started very much kind of self-serve product-led growth back in about 2009. And so serving the small business. And so highly integrated with Google and Chrome and things like that. And that's how people, got access to our CRM initially. And then we did, as the market frankly got more competitive, and we've had a free CRM in market for almost that entire time. We found that we needed to move much more to a platform approach. And so we added in a marketing automation tool, middleware, which we call App Connect, that helps us connect to things like QuickBooks or, NetSuite or PandaDoc or anything like that our customers want to integrate with their CRM because, CRM is very much the focal point for a lot of different customer interactions. So of course you want to be able to connect all your tools. And then most recently we launched our service app. So, and if, the competitor with the big huge blue cloud that you're talking about, I actually worked there a few years, right? And so, they clearly are somebody that we go up against. And actually, we win business from them, and they take some business from us as well. But it's an interesting space. There's like 1,700 some companies that claim to have CRM capabilities, and there's many fewer there than that are pure CRM plays with a platform. But a piece of it is to look for the areas of weakness, I think, in your competitors, right? So I think it's very possible to be scrappy and frankly just not be afraid to go head to head with your competition relative to buying characteristics that your product has that the competitive one doesn't. And so in the case of legacy CRMs, such as Salesforce, there's actually a lot to poke at, frankly. And this comes off of, not even just our opinion, it's the opinion of 500 some go-to-market leaders that we researched about a year and a half ago, who said what they don't like about their CRM is it's too expensive, it costs too much to maintain, it costs too much to integrate their software. It's maybe not, sure, it's flexible in the case of Salesforce, but it's not as flexible as they want it to be, along with the price that they're paying. And so, there's the ease of use and ability to integrate and ability to have your CRM be flexible at a reasonable price is just a highly appealing thing for a lot of companies. Salesforce is a great company. There's the old adage, nobody was fired for hiring IBM. And I think it sort of applies, or people think it applies when they get to a company relative to Salesforce because it's what they know. But I think there's a little bit about that's Salesforce has kind of become who they started out trying to destroy, the Oracle and the SAPs of the world, which had the expensive enterprise software. And in many ways, that's what they are now.
Yeah, I like the focus there on the weaknesses, and really that's, positioning, like where you're positioned in the market. And I know some people hear positioning and they think messaging and get those two mixed up, but really that's what you're looking for is that spot you can fill that goes against the weaknesses. And I think, so I came from a company as well in the intranet space. We sold against Microsoft, and then Facebook dipped their toe in that space. And similar thing, I'm not going to outspend them. It's just never going to happen. So you had to be faster, you had to be scrappier, and go into channels they weren't doing or weren't doing well. So I'm curious on your go to market then, like how do you figure out those channels that you think you can do well, and then how do you kind of put the pedal down a bit and accelerate on them once you see results?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting when you have a company like Salesforce and increasingly HubSpot as well, because they're
Yeah,
both brands are so well known and they've got a large amount of investment. Somebody searching for a CRM is likely going to also search for Salesforce. Somebody searching for marketing
yeah,
automation is also going to likely search for HubSpot. And so, when we think about going to market, we're obviously wanting to be focused beyond just who's in market today, but also the 95% of people that we want them to be aware of insightly when they come up for renewal on their current CRM contract. And
yeah,
one of the cool things that came out from our research is a lot of people are searching for a CRM all the time, right? I mean, the average tenure of a CRM is like 3 years or something. It's not as long as you would expect it to be in an organization with it being so pivotal. But, with that said, our kind of ideal customer profile is in the mid-market, small to mid-market, companies, 20 people to 250 is probably the core of our ICP.
yeah,
And, so we're leveraging intent data, and I think we're driving ads, both paid and organic, inside of LinkedIn as our primary channel. And we learned from our own research internally that that's the number one social platform for our customers and also for go-to-market leaders who are the primary decision makers in our product. And frankly, it's something I think that our competitors are not heavily focused on. At least our two top ones are not heavily focused on doing differentiated content, especially ungated thought leadership
yeah.
focused on pain points inside of LinkedIn. And that's kind of where we're focused. It's why we started our own podcast called Closing Time, where we're focused on, the needs of go-to-market leaders. How do you sell better? How do you manage your leads? How do you better manage your funnel? How do you think about customer retention? So it's fascinating, really. And because there is, when I think about any competitor, no matter what market you're in, there's probably some soft spot,
Yeah.
that your competitor has to poke at, and we're figuring out how to poke at it.
Yeah, it's kind of the fun. Sometimes you're probably cursing under your breath, oh, I wish I had more budget to do this cool thing. But there is something fun to be scrappy and kind of go after and spot those opportunities. LinkedIn's an interesting one. I don't want to go too far down the attribution rabbit hole because that's a whole another discussion.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we also, that's one of our main go to markets now. Same thing. We have a targeted niche, actually almost the exact same market you do, slightly higher, like top end, I would say, but very, very
Okay.
similar. So we upload a list running similar thought leadership content. And one of the challenges there we had is measuring the success of it. And, we do it a little bit through self-reported attribution and other avenues. But I'm curious how you think about that and really measure how well LinkedIn is working.
Yeah, we do self-reported attribution as well, and that's proven really successful for us. And we also, there's a big chunk of our go-to-market where we know the domains that we're targeting. And so
Yeah.
then we used post-analysis to determine how many of those domains actually engage and become part of our pipeline and end up doing business with us over time. And so it's maybe not a direct A to B point, but we can kind of see how that business arrived at our website and why they ended up choosing us, or at least adding us to the consideration set.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be one of the marketers that's not so hung up in attribution. I think because so much of it is about finding where your customers are and trying to demonstrate, your differentiation and to try to show the unique brand value that you add to them. And so, but with that said, the how did you hear about us has proven very interesting for us because we've learned about 20% of our business comes from word of mouth,
Yeah.
and referrals from our customers, and another 7 to 10% comes from former users who now go to another company and choose that they want to bring Insightly to that company. So I think both of those things speak volume to how well you treat your customers, right? And so I think that I would recommend that to any marketer. If you're not doing that, you're going to get a lot of value by adding sort of an open-ended, how did you hear about this to your form? And the fact that I think you're going to realize the benefit of the flywheel effect that's in place for how you actually treat your customers, that's kind of invisible from attribution.
Yeah, the thing that kind of opened my eyes there as well is because Google, you do get that. Well, in attribution software, you get direct attribution.
Mm-hmm.
But last time I looked, I think it was like 60% of our Google leads, I'm using air quotes here, actually say, I'm a former customer. I saw a post on LinkedIn. I saw an ad. It's not really Google, but they're kind of getting misattributed there. And that helped us figure out where we can actually move spend to be more efficient and separate, branded from non-branded campaigns and how we manage all that. I do want to go into a little bit the podcast because obviously we have a podcast as well.
Yeah.
You're on it. And, there is the play of getting that thought leader content, running it on LinkedIn ads to get in front of your audience. Some people do it as a content networking play as well to have their customers on or potential customers. I'm curious how that's all structured for you. Like, is it entirely thought leadership or what is the strategy kind of behind that?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it is thought leadership, right? There's a little bit of the content that we do that I would consider be a little bit more product marketing, or at least sort of, how would you say it, sort of industry marketing per se, where we're kind of trying to expand the awareness of CRM and the new capabilities of CRM. But a lot of it is thought leadership, really targeted at helping go-to-market leaders do their job better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but sort of the hidden strategy that's part of it is we're trying to engage thought leaders and influencers that already have the ears of our ICP, and frankly,
exactly.
Borrow their audience a bit, if you will, in the social channels, and kind of leverage their influence to reach people that we otherwise would be unable to reach with some sort of branded or paid ad.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had Logan Lyles on the podcast a couple weeks ago, talks a lot about Nearbound, and what he was describing is exactly what we do. I just never knew it had a name and strategy tied to it, which was, Nearbound marketing, which is boring those audiences and kind of getting multiple magnets, so to speak, like, getting other people to promote your content and working with them. Yeah. I think, you've had some big names on the podcast and some pretty well-known people. And I think what people don't realize is a lot of times you just have to make the ask and people are incredibly willing. Like, they sometimes overcomplicate it and get in their own head. So is that what you found as well? Like, you source the people you want and then any tricks to make the ask, or is it as simple as that really?
Honestly, when we were starting out, it was a little tougher. Because there was not the example of all the great content that we already had, right? And so we started out at actually doing some paid engagements to get some of our initial influencers on the podcast. But once you have a product and you demonstrate quality and you're able to share that with the influencers that you reach out to, I mean, my ask record has been nearly 100% just by, like you said, just making the ask. If you do it politely, obviously, and you can demonstrate that you know what you're doing and you're focusing on content or quality content, they're more than happy to take part.
Yeah, and I think the other end of that as well, and I've saw you have done this quite a bit, and you're doing it right now, is going on other podcasts as well to borrow that audience, get your voice out there, honestly get content out of it, because most podcasts will share the clips afterwards. So is that kind of the dual-pronged approach of, you have your own, you bring people on, but is it an active strategy to reach out and be on other podcasts as well?
It is. I've done a decent amount of outreach, but frankly, there's a decent amount of inbound, so I don't have to spend much time focusing on outreach. As you've probably noticed, I mean, one of the byproducts of getting really active on LinkedIn, especially if you're in a CMO role and you control a budget, is I get a lot of people trying to sell me stuff, and so I'm very actively engaged in filtering through what I read and what I engage with. But I love to talk to people on podcasts, absolutely, because I always almost learn something when I'm talking to other smart marketers, And so one of the things that dawned on me as I've thought about my career is where I tend to gravitate towards companies that have a strong community, of customers that want to be around the brand. That was very true with the 12 years that I was at ExactTarget, and some of the most fun years that I've ever had as a marketer were building that brand, building that culture, and launching some of our customer events that started out at 500 and grew to 6,000 or so by the time we were acquired by Salesforce in 2013. And that flywheel effect, I'm going to use that term again, of, having that kind of brand with your ideal customers who want to be around it, who want to, frankly, you're almost a byproduct. They're happy to wear the Insightly shirt, but they want to engage with other users, other customers, and frankly, learn.
Yeah. And I think that we only have a few minutes, so I don't want to dive too much into alignment, but I think that's a big part of it, is getting your whole go-to-market team fully aligned from sales to marketing to success to build that experience. And then it happens organically and you get the flywheel. Because I find too often, personally, marketers aren't involved much in the customer experience, and customers are over here in CS and you can't really get to them. So I think that's where a lot of people miss out, is that alignment can really throw a wrench in getting that community going, like you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think marketers have to talk to customers. My team leads our customer advisory board efforts, for example. We have our customer advisory board here coming up this week, and we have a couple of customers presenting. And, we're creating those connections and those learnings for customers, and they appreciate it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then I do want to dive into one last thing here. So you mentioned being scrappy, trying new channels, diving down into them and focusing on them. I'm curious, what are you, and maybe you don't want to go too deep into this, but what are you testing and trying now? Like, what's an exciting channel or opportunity that you're seeing out there in marketing?
Well, we're doing a lot of different things always. One of the things I try to do, especially in a competitive environment, is keep a bit of a sandbox budget. So I'm able to test something every quarter that I haven't done before. And so, one of the things that we're doing is we've leaned heavily into our demo on demand, right? And so now I'm testing the landing page and the entrance to that. What are there cases where we want to gate that actually, or do we want to leave it fully ungated for everybody? I think there's some cost per lead channels that we're looking at and testing right now, and actually getting some decent results out of, frankly, just asking for a basic amount of information for accessing a demo on demand, and just trying to show the Insightly to a broader set of people that otherwise wouldn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, the gated versus ungated, because you're running, obviously very ungated content plays in a lot of cases to get your message and saturate your audience. But I still think there is a place for some gated content. So it's interesting you're running those tests to see how that all works out.
Yeah, I think there's a place for gated content for sure. And whether or not you send it right to your SDR team is a different question, right? But being able to, sort of capture that desire to engage with your content is important, whether or not that customer closes in 30 days or 300 days.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing worse than, gated piece of content and then an SDR trying to sell you when you're not anywhere in market. And I feel like we all did that for way too many years, and hopefully learn from those mistakes.
It's true. Well, I mean, in the days where your budget is bottomless, go ahead and try those things. But in the days of scrappy, frugal growth, you can't invest in that strategy.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not 2021 anymore. This was a different year on the budget front. So got to be a little scrappy. Got to try things. Hopefully 2024 is a bit better, but hopefully we learn from this year for next year.
Yeah, it feels like, the community is getting really supportive. I think in this last couple of years, I've felt more camaraderie and support and sort of like-mindedness from marketers and CMOs than ever, frankly, because I think we're all willing to share our bumps and bruises more than historically, and, frankly, we're all coming away with a lot of the same scars. So the learnings are interesting.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's a whole nother discussion there on the community. And I mean, you reached out through a Slack community to me, right? So there's something entirely there, but I know we do have to wrap. So Chip, if people want to learn more about you, connect, or learn about Insightly, where should they go?
Yeah, for sure. If they want to learn about me, please, check out my profile on LinkedIn. I'm on there a lot. You can check out more of my content, connect to some of the podcasts as well, or visit insightly.com.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. So we'll include those links. And Chip, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me. My key takeaway here is really just how thoughtful Chip is about their go-to-market. So with Salesforce and HubSpot obviously being very well known, he realizes that if people are in market, they're just going to Google one of those two brands or both. So instead, he also focuses on the 95% of people who aren't in market. And instead of just picking a channel and going, he saw, his ICP is small to mid-market. Their main social platform is LinkedIn. So that's going to be their primary channel. And then, since they aren't as large as some of their competitors and might not have as deep pockets, they're leveraging intent data on top of that to optimize their spend. So again, it's not just pick an audience, pick a channel and go, it's a well thought out go-to-market strategy. So thanks again for listening, and I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode.